Hey guys, before we start with the show, I'd just like to say a few things that I missed touching on while being so sporadic with my thoughts at the moment we recorded this. First of all, a big thank you to everyone who sent videos in. We unfortunately couldn't get enough in to properly make a segment out of it, but we appreciate all of you who sent them in nonetheless, and we're thinking of utilizing those videos at a later date, likely around our show, either previewing the November 29th and December 3rd games with Columbus or after, when we'll likely be able to remember Johnny better, being more concise with our words, minus the shock that we've all felt since this news came out. I just want to say also to Johnny's wife Meredith and their children Noah, Johnny, and the third on the way, to Jane and Guy, sisters Katie and Christian, Matthew's wife Madeline, and baby Trip. I think I can echo the sentiment on behalf of the Flames fan base when I say that this city will forever hold you in our thoughts and prayers, and that number 13 will forever hold sentimental value to our city. Our heartfelt condolences to the entire Gaudreau family. The GoFundMe link to support Madeline Gaudreau and baby Trip will be attached in the description below. And now on to the show. Today we've got Mike from In the Dome. We're going to sit and do, or I guess put our best foot forward at a Gaudreau tribute show. We haven't really posted in a while, obviously. We wanted to wait maybe till after the funeral, so that we get to talk about this in a light that is, a little bit less devastating from the devastation. We're thinking of making it more favorite memory centric, and try to think about the positivity that the Gaudreau family brought into our lives for almost a decade. Thursday night, when we find out, first and foremost, this is a message to, I think, all the media people that wanted to get clicks out of a situation like this. First of all, shame on you. That's unfair to the fam to find out that way. It was reported like it was a trade. There was absolutely no sense of decency whatsoever. Following up on that, from the funeral a few days ago, you had reporters there and people taking snippets of, like Guy, the poor guy, falling to his knees, like trying to cope with the idea that both of his sons are gone. And it's like, why are you taking photos and publicizing a funeral? They pull Cole Caulfield aside. They ask him for a request for comment. That's ridiculous. You don't do that at a funeral. You don't certainly break the news about a death that way. You don't cover it in that way. So everyone that's in that media department that had a responsibility in doing that, shame on you, literally. That's just, that's the way we're starting this. It's always felt like we knew him and his family personally in a way, from how close they were and how they were rock stars here, like straight up. Just as fans, like we pay attention to these guys. I mean, us more than the average fan. I mean, we're a little crazy. I fully admit that, but these guys are like straight up part of your life. It genuinely feels like Gaudreau was part of my life for a decade. I mean, I'm just rambling now. You guys take over. This is
Well, he is part of your life. And similarly, I never really understood like celebrity. I know athletes and famous people pass away, and a lot of them in very tragic ways, but you don't really understand it until it kind of like happens to you,
mm,
right? So I never really understood it either until this happened. Yeah, it's been pretty crushing, man. Because like you said, they are part of your life. Like 8 years. I was just saying to you before we started, it was like and like you said, we're a bit crazy. We're like super fans, but like I was thinking about the Gaudreaus every single day since Johnny left. Like just being like sad that he wasn't in Calgary and sad that I didn't get to see, the family around the Saddle Dome as much or at all. So these people are part of your lives. So to lose them like that is really crushing because and they bring so much joy to your life too, right? Like,
yeah.
how many nights have you come home, like whether you're a kid, you guys grew up with Johnny Gaudreau. I'm a little older, so I still kind of watched him grow up, but a lot of formative times in my life, I even like think about in relation to the timeline of like Johnny Gaudreau's career. Somebody asked me like, "Oh, remember when that thing happened like in university or whatever?" I'm like, "Okay, what year was John? Okay, that's 2017. Okay, that's Johnny. Yeah, okay." A lot of my life references A lot of my formative years were spent watching Johnny Gaudreau play hockey for the Flames. So you do know him, even though we didn't know him. We knew him, and we knew the family, and we knew how close they were, and we knew how good of people they were, and still are. So that's why it really hurts. It's not even that it's just a celebrity because anybody you talk to with Johnny too, he wasn't a celebrity at all. He was the most. If you bumped into him on the street in Jersey or in Philly or in Carney's Point or in Calgary, like you'd never know. It's like who's that guy driving the G wagon with his window down in freaking February in his Uggs and sweatpants? That's that guy's a millionaire. That's weird. So yeah, it's pretty weird.
Yeah, 100%. It still doesn't feel real. I mean, like Johnny always had his flaws here in Calgary, right? People always thought that he couldn't get the job done in the playoffs and whatnot. But every year he kept coming back here, just put his head down, went to work, and did his best. And yeah, I still wake up and shake my head at the fact that Johnny Gaudreau isn't here anymore. We're not going to get to watch that guy play another hockey game. And yeah, it's incredibly sad growing up watching him just pave the way for younger players and smaller players like myself in general. I never played hockey, but I'm a small guy. And just watching Johnny Gaudreau be able to perform at the level that he did with his size, it's inspirational to kids.
Yeah, I was showing Mike a photo from 10 years ago when I met him. And we were in the ninth grade at that time. It was that 14-15 season. It's weird. Like you look at that photo, it's like I was almost his size, which is like insane to think about. I didn't really grow much since then either, so I kind of just plateaued there. But the thing that I think about, I guess, the most about this whole thing is like the layers of devastation to the story. After the funeral, the layers only got worse. Like
Yeah, yeah,
he's got like a third kid now on the way, and Meredith's pregnant. There's certain like spiritual elements to this that I think about just being a religious guy. I can't like get over. John's son was born in February, also named Johnny. I know that with a lot of European families, they always like to name their kid after the dad or their grandpa or whatever. Like I know that I have that in my family, but like you could have named the kid Aiden, like you could have picked a different, you named him Johnny, right? And it's like that spiritual significance there is not lost on me. Like to me, it's like heartbreakingly insane looking at how some layers of this story like add up. Like him and his brother did everything together, right? And now they pass away together. Like it's something that I don't know. There's just these layers to it that just keep adding to it, and it keeps my mind thinking about it to the point where it's like this is just like I thought I would think I'm over it. I'm like, okay,
yeah.
I'm in acceptance now, and then it's like, no, we're back to grief. Um, I noticed another thing in the schedule. So November 29th, we're in Columbus, and then December 3rd, they're here. Um, the nature of the planning in the schedule, I guess, like in the sense of the fact that we play each other twice in a time frame that close together, being two teams from opposite conferences that only see each other twice a year, it's resembling a home and home. Spiritually insane, also, when you look at it from that perspective. I don't think I'm ever not going to be praying for the Gaudreau family. They're forever enriched in my prayers and in my DNA as a name that holds like sentimental value to me. And I can't even properly explain it. Guy followed me on Twitter when I wrote articles for the Win column. We were so lucky to watch him be our superstar for almost a decade, and I guess yeah, if you want to segue to memories, you guys can shoot first.
Yeah, well, just with the family aspect, like you're saying, like, that's another reason it's so close is because they were a part of the fan base. I know in Columbus as well,
Mhm.
and it's not just us. It's cool to kind of see Columbus, not cool, but it's touching to see the city of Columbus come together behind Johnny in a manner that we are as well. But, like Guy was at every single home game that the Blue Jackets played when Johnny was there. And you saw Noah and Meredith there all the time. His family was there all the time. They were entrenched in that community, just like they were here. And even if they weren't here physically, like you said, like we interacted with Uncle Jim on Twitter. I remember we were all goofing on some people, and Katie jumped in and like was defending John with us on Twitter. And like even Jane, like after game 7, she's on Twitter talking about how proud she was that Johnny got an A in that A on his sweater, and interacted with her in that way. So they were a part of the community. They're in the stands, right? Like some of my greatest memories are of them being in the stands, like Guy just trying to watch, and there's like people in front of him, and they're loitering around. And he's getting pissed off, and you can see him. He's like shakes his head and has to go like move seats so he can get a better view of the ice. So that's another reason, like you said, that layer of devastation. That family's so close. We knew that family. We love that family. So it's just really hard.
I guess yeah, we can get into memories. So I showed Mike the photo. I'll probably send it to you.
You should post it, I think.
Honestly, might as well. It's just that I was
Everybody looked like that in ninth grade. Come on.
it's just
It's okay.
okay. Well, shit, you get to see it again.
Ah, there it is.
Yeah, there it is.
So the story behind this picture, I was in Banff with my family for winter break, and we were driving back into the city, and I opened up the NHL app, and I saw that the Flames posted a thing that was like, "Oh, Johnny Gaudreau and Chris Russell are doing a meet and greet at the Chrysler downtown." And I was like, "Well, what are the odds we could make this?" Because I was like, "We're driving from Banff. What are the odds if we pull up to downtown around like 3 o'clock when the supposed meet and greet was ending? It was supposed to run from 1 to 3." And I was like, "Well, what are the odds I could like show up during that?" Obviously, I didn't bring a jersey or anything. We're coming in from Banff, so I wasn't even remotely thinking. We arrived late. My dad and I walked down. It's like 3:05. A lot of the times, like when you don't have an obligation to be there after a certain time, you don't really need to be there after that time. So they're out the door. And then so Chris Russell had already left. And I look and I just saw Johnny on his way out, and we walked in, and he noticed my Flames case, which was pretty dope at the time, I will add. And he looks at the case and he's like, "Were you coming in for the meet and greet?" And I was like, "Yeah." And then my dad was like, "Yeah, we're kind of late. We were driving in from Banff, all this sort of thing." And Johnny was like, "Yeah, well, I mean, the meet and greet's over, but I'll stay and chat with you guys. I'll tell the guys to go." So he goes outside, tells Chris Russell to just dip. Like he's like, "It's fine. I'll get my own ride in a bit," and all this, and then walks back in and talks to us for the next 10 minutes. And I think they played the Islanders the night before. And I remember telling him, "Yeah, like last night it was a sick game." He was like, "Yeah, but we didn't win." And then I feel like I would want to win every game. Like I want to make the playoffs because I think we're in a position where that's realistic. And he was saying this back in January of that 14-15 year. And he kept relaying to my dad and I like how badly he wants to make the playoffs and how being like first year in the NHL, it's like it's so cool and all this sort of thing. And then I made a joke because my boots were like bulky and just weird. My whole like attire was just ridiculous, and I had like no confidence in the ninth grade. So he straight up looks at my boots. He's like, "Those boots are sick," and I was like, "Are they though? Like I don't know if they are." And he was like, "No, like those boots are sick." And then he was like, "It's even doper though, that Flames phone case." And I was like, "Yeah." And then he's like, "Let's take a picture." So then I gave my phone to my dad. We took a photo. And then I show him the photo after we take it, and he goes, "Dang, I didn't realize I was that small. How old are you?" I was like, "I'm 14." And he goes, "Okay, that makes me feel better about everything." And then he just walks out and starts talking about hockey with my dad and I for about 10 minutes. And then he was at the end of the conversation, he was like, "I hope the drive from Banff was worth it. Didn't want you guys to feel bad for coming in late and all this." And I was like, "This is crazy. This is exactly who you want the superstar of your favorite team to be like outside of watching him be a superstar on the ice." I don't know, man. Like that memory is just meeting the guy when he was like 21. Like this is the same season where like Monahan and Bulma and him they showed up late after the Super Bowl party and had to apologize to the media. Like it was that same season. And honestly, this photo was taken just before that because Super Bowl would have been so, so yeah, Noah and I FaceTiming after game 7. I was at the game and he was at home and we were just losing our minds. I don't even think I heard anything you were saying to me through the phone. We were just yelling It was just insane.
No,
And
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. That was a goal that brought a city together, right? Like just that entire season, just the way that that first line, the way that Johnny and Kachuk and Lindholm handled themselves that year. Um, it just felt like there was a something in the air in Calgary, right? And it was on the back of Johnny Gaudreau, like plus minus leader, second in scoring to McDavid. Like it was just an incredible year, and to cap it off with that goal. I know we were going into the second round on such a high note. It felt like nothing in the world could have stopped the Calgary Flames that year. Unfortunately, it didn't work out the way we wanted it to, but yeah, that goal is definitely up there for me too. I mean, yeah, I still remember that night after the game, being in complete shock. Johnny Gaudreau beat the Ottinger curse, and yeah, yeah,
Yeah, that was my favorite memories are always still kind of earlier in Johnny's career, but that's such a special moment in Game 7 when he scores that goal because it was like a culmination of it, almost a decade of different things. Because, early on in his career, like you mentioned, it was like, oh, this is awesome. But then kind of in that middle chunk, when he was still really young, mind you, there was kind of a lot of criticism. It's like, oh, he is too small to win in the playoffs. He doesn't show up in the big moments, which like I always thought was BS because he generally did all the time. But there was that kind of struggle period between like 2016, 17, 18, 19, 20, where it was a lot of questioning of like, okay, is this really the guy? And then in that moment, in that series, which he was unbelievable, in that season, like you said, in which he was unbelievable, it all kind of came together. And it was really special. I just remember being like so goddamn proud and just beaming that it was Johnny that scored that goal and it was Johnny that was leading the way. And I think ultimately the Flames probably should have went farther in the playoffs that year. We run into uh Draisaitl and McDavid, but
yeah,
yeah, that really felt like the culmination of so many years of just, being with John. Like that's what I said. You know him because we spent so much time together just watching him. Like every day, every night, watching Johnny Gaudreau, watching him grow up, winning with him, losing with him, being through the good times, being through the bad times, the ups, the downs. We were there, right there with him, and then finally for it to come together in such a special way in Game 7 like that. That was just incredible. And man, it really solidified him as a legend in Calgary, even though I think he was already.
there are 9 players ever in NHL history to have had their numbers retired by 2 different NHL franchises. Of note would be guys like Bobby Hull, like with Chicago and then the Winnipeg, Arizona franchise. You've got Gordie Howe, Detroit, and then Hartford and Carolina. And you've got Wayne Gretzky, obviously like Edmonton, LA, but also retired league wide. Just, a few guys to name a few out of the 9. I mean, I don't know where I feel like I have a sense of where most people stand. I feel like most people agree with the statement I'm about to make, but I think the Flames and Jackets should make Johnny the 10th player in NHL history to have his number retired by 2 franchises. And they could do it together. I mean, I don't know how the logistics of it would work and if it's too quick of a turnaround, but they could technically do it together in a span of a week. We're in Columbus on the November 29th. Banner could go up there. Columbus is here December 3rd. Banner could go up here. There is genuine merit in retiring his jersey. It's not just because he passed, it's because he was legit one of the best players to ever play for our franchise. And even if he did extend at the time he extended, that would have been a lock. So to me, the merit is there. I think the Flames and the Blue Jackets should do it. And I have no doubt that they're planning something together, considering that they play each other so close together. I mean, I can't imagine that they're not working on something in some capacity in order to figure out how to honor him both nights. So
Yeah, I think the Flames, based on how the Flames and Jackets have been dealing with this so far, I think they will do a good job with in whatever way they honor Johnny in the future. Because yeah, the from what I've seen, Columbus is doing a great job. Obviously, we're here in Calgary and we see it firsthand, but the Flames have done a phenomenal job honoring Johnny, and it's really been helpful for me and I know you guys and a lot of fans in the way they've kind of they've made the Saddle Dome open to people to come and mourn, and the vigil was great, and the speakers were great, and they're treating this in a way that we would want it to be treated as, and it's really been helpful, I think.
Hmm.
Yeah, 100%. I was going to touch on that as well. Just the response from the Flames community, the fans. It was really touching to see. I know after Johnny didn't re-sign here, there was some bitter and hard feelings, but when something of this nature happens, you put that aside. There's things that are bigger than contracts and hockey and where you ended up. But just the response, and even from Columbus fans as well, just watching the morning, watching the extent that these fans are willing to go to just to honor Johnny and live on his legacy. It's really touching to see, and I'm really proud to be a Calgary Flames fan this summer.
Honestly, I think Blake Coleman also touched on that at
Yeah.
the golf tournament. His sentiment of being proud to play for this city. Yeah, you had people that had a bitter taste in their mouths. I mean, we went to the game when he came back. I'm pretty sure we were like the only two fans in our section that didn't boo.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah,
I was like Karening people. I was like, don't boo. I was like,
yeah,
stop. Well, it just shows how much we loved him. Like that's why most of us were so upset when he left because like
mhm.
we 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 fucking love that guy.
I hope he knew that. He did that Players Tribune in the Athletic where he like touched on it. He's like, yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, I'm a sports fan. Like, I get it. Like, it's gonna happen. But I know that like the day of the game, I forget who it was in the media that said like, oh, but if they boo you, it's because they love you.
Yeah.
He's like, no, I don't. He's like, I don't know if I see it the same way. I feel like they'd be booing me because they hate me or something. But we love the guy. Seriously. Him and his whole family. I hope that God gives him the strength. The photos coming out of the funeral, there's the most heartbreaking pictures. Monahan also is the pallbearer.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was rough. Well, money. Oh man.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
I
Like there's layers to this that we
yeah,
didn't
you just
mention. I feel like
keep remembering thing. The Monahan thing is another one.
yeah, and I mean, like there's so many layers to this that you could touch on that just add to the devastation, but I feel like everyone knows of all
Yeah.
these layers already.
Well, you know what? I'm actually obviously to be really hard for Sean Monahan, but you know what? When you think about it, he's closer to John's family now. Being in Columbus, he'll be close to Meredith and the kids. Like he'll be right there. I think that's a blessing for the Gaudreau family that Sean's so close and he'll be able to. They can lean on each other. I hope.
Exactly, yeah.
Johnny's early days, just being my some of my favorite memories. I think because obviously for a lot of younger fans, the Game 7 was awesome. The season he was lights out in 21-22 was awesome. I mean, even 2018, 2019, when he should have been in the Hart Trophy candidate, like that's when he kind of first emerged as like a true superstar in the NHL. But, going back to those early days, and this is the reason why we love him so much, is because like the lore around Johnny Hockey is just so awesome, right? Like
Yeah.
it's freaking legend. Like just like you said, he's so small. You go back and look at all the old pictures. There's that great picture of him and like Chris Breen at his first Flames development camp, and he's literally like right in the picture, like you, like he's like this, and
Yeah.
his dad was always telling him like it's gonna be hard for you, man. Like you're gonna have to work twice as hard as anybody else just to even get a shot because you're just so small. Because I think in today's day and age, we've kind of gotten over the small bias a little bit. It still
yeah,
exists in the NHL for sure, but I mean in the fandom, we realize like this is mostly nonsense, right? Like give these small guys a chance. But back then, like that's 10 years ago. That was not a thing. It was like Johnny goes in the fourth round that year. I think he's the highest scoring player in that draft class other than Kucherov.
yeah.
Yeah.
After winning the Hobie Baker
Yeah, he won the Hobie Baker and was
trophy.
unbelievable for Boston College. He was unbelievable in the USHL, leads them to a championship, was like remember watching him in the World Juniors? Like it was just like electric, this kid. And there were still questions. It was like, yeah, he's too small. Dangles three guys top shelf. It was like, whoa, this is crazy. But even still, it was like, I remember those first 10 games he kind of played. It was kind of like he wasn't scoring a lot. He was struggling a little bit. And it was a lot of like, he is too small. He's too small. And then I think he scored like 2 goals in a game in Winnipeg I remember he scored a sweet wraparound goal for his second NHL goal and first of the season. Joel Colburn, nice setup. And he just took off from there. It was just like he got those 2 goals. His confidence was that he was just like lights out from then on. And you got to remember what space the Flames fans were in. Like you're talking about him when he met him that season, wanting to make the playoffs so bad. Like the Flames hadn't made the playoffs since 2009 in his rookie year. It was really hard times. Like we were watching some really crappy teams, and it wasn't like the Flames were like tanking and getting high draft picks. They were trying to make the playoffs every year.
Mhm.
And the Iginla thing and the Kiprasov thing, they had like unceremonious exits. It was so depressing. It was brutal. Like most people were totally checked out. And then Johnny just shows up and changed the franchise in a way that really only like top picks change franchises, right? Like in only ways that guys like McDavid and Draisaitl and Crosby and Kane change your franchise. And he showed up and he was just this little dorky looking kid and he totally changed the franchise. Like that 2014-15 season, they had no business being in the playoffs that year. That team sucked. Go look at that roster. It's terrible. And they didn't even have Gio for half of the year because he was hurt. It was so bad that team was so bad. And they made the playoffs 99% because Johnny Gaudreau was unbelievable that season. He was so good.
Made the playoffs and won a round.
They won a round. First round they've won since 2004 and gave us some of the most electric, like that game against Anaheim, the comeback kids when Colburn scores, Johnny scores with 30 seconds left. Like that shit's legendary, man.
Yeah.
That's still to me my favorite Johnny Gaudreau moment of all time is him scoring rookie season, Johnny hockey, 30 seconds less, tied the game in round 2 in game 3.
The Selly too.
So good.
Oh,
and he had that. Monahan had some great moments in that playoff too that he set up. Just that whole thing, it was just like it felt like the beginning of something, which it did end up becoming. I think something amazing. The best 8 seasons of Flames fandom I can ever recall. It was so awesome, and then just see him grow into that superstar. Like I said, like he became a legit NHL superstar, and I think maybe people who are, really into hockey understand. But if you're just kind of like a casual fan who doesn't watch the Flames every night, you don't realize like, yeah, Johnny Gaudreau's right up there with the best of the best during his time in Calgary.
Yeah.
Like even the 17-18 season, like I think he should have been in the Hart Trophy talks. He was so good that year. And then obviously the next year when he had that unbelievable year with Lindholm and Monahan, like you look at the top 10 scores in the years between Johnny's rookie year and the time he spent in Calgary, like the 8 years, 14 to 22, it's McDavid, it's Patrick Kane, it's Crosby, it's Draisaitl, it's Marchand, it's Gaudreau, it's Kucherov, it's Ovi, it's Mac, and like Panarin or something. Mm-hmm. Like he was one of the best players. He was the superstar, and he was a 4th-round pick, and he was way too small, and he should have never been there. And he was our guy, and it was fucking awesome, and we loved every minute of it. And he was so fun to watch, like you said. Like that's the biggest bummer in all of this, especially. I know it's kind of a weird season upcoming for Flames fans where we're kind of like, yeah, we just want to see some young kids. I think the secondary thing I wanted to see in the NHL this year that I was excited for was to see Johnny and Monty reunited.
Mm-hmm.
So it was just such a pleasure to watch him play hockey. He's easily the most exciting player. I think, again, I'm totally biased. He's my favorite player to watch. I'd rather watch him play than McDavid or Kane or Sid or anybody. I love watching that guy play hockey.
Because of his size and the fact that he's at that same elite level, you have to be better at the sport.
Whatever. Well, think about all those guys I just listed. Like Kane's probably the smallest of all those guys.
Yeah. Maybe like, Kucherov, but Kucherov's heavier. So
yeah, like he's just a little pipsqueak out there, like punching in the weight class of McDavid and Crosby. It's crazy.
It's crazy. And like you alluded to, like he's forever going to be our guy. Like number 13 is in my brain, like forever going to be synonymous with Johnny Hockey.
Well, and like you said, with the number retiring on merit, 100% it's on merit. He's 5th in all-time assists for the Calgary Flames.
Yeah.
Behind only like Fleury and Suter and McInnes and Iggy. He's 5th in all-time points. Like, what more do you want? And the impact he had on the city, like, you could argue that he changed the franchise in the same way that Jerome McGinley changed the franchise when he arrived.
Yep.
Whole new wave of fans became fans. He's forever going to be our number 13. And I mean, that December 3rd game, I'm going to gonna do my best to make sure I go to that game. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see how tickets work. People are reselling them for they're trying to pick people's pockets on
Nice.
for that specific night, really. This has been a very sporadic episode, but I think it was done well enough. It's hard as a fan to talk about something like this when you know that, like, yeah, we're going through it, but that family is going through it more than anything. And my prayers are just with the Gaudreau family. God give them the grace to keep pushing through all of this. If you guys like our content, check us out. We'll probably have a show up next week after the Penticton tournament, talking about the young stars. And yeah, go check out the In the Dome podcast. They're part of, now under Flames Nation. And yeah, God bless the Gaudreau family, and thank you for listening.